Hello everyone. In present situation, the whole world is panicked about coronavirus. Coronavirus is present across the world. Even now also coronavirus may present around us. But can we see coronavirus? No, we cannot see coronavirus. It means that there are certain organisms which are present around us. They are too small and not visible to our naked eyes. And it is very essential for us to study about them too. So today we are going to learn about a very important lesson, that is microorganisms, friend and foe. The points to be covered in this lesson are diversity in microorganisms, that is bacteria, algae, fungi, protozoa, virus. Helpful or beneficial microorganisms, uses of microorganisms in different areas. Harmful microorganisms, food spoilage, food poisoning, and different methods of food preservation. Children, today by the end of this session, we all will be able to recall the terms microorganisms and microscope. We will be able to explain the diversity among the microorganisms. We will be able to classify microorganisms in different groups. We will be able to differentiate between different types of bacteria. We will be able to identify the basic parts of typical bacterial cell. We will be able to sketch the basic structure of a bacterial cell, and we will be able to explain different types of nutrition in bacteria. All these points we will be able to learn today by the end of this session. A lot of organisms are present around us, like a boy or human being, a plant, and even the coronavirus too. What is the basic difference here? We can see man, we can see a plant, but we cannot see coronavirus or the bacteria. What do we call to these living organisms which are not visible to our naked eyes? Yes, they do call as microorganisms. So how we can define the term microorganisms? Microorganisms are those living organisms which are not visible to our naked eyes. Those living organisms are called as microorganisms. Now here the question arises, if the microorganisms are present, then where do exactly they present? What is the habitat for microorganism? The children remember, microorganisms are present at each and every place, even inside of our body, outside of our body. They are present around us. Even they are present inside the body of animals too. Even the microorganisms are present in those environmental conditions too, where the other living organisms cannot survive. For example, microorganisms can survive even in the volcanoes. Microorganisms can present even in the clouds. Microorganisms can present even in polar ice caps. And microorganisms can present in the hot springs too. It means that even in those environmental conditions where the other living organisms cannot survive, in those environmental conditions also microorganisms are present. So we can conclude that microorganisms are present at each and every place. Now, if we're talking about the diversity in microorganisms, means what are the different types of microorganisms are. So remember, microorganisms are broadly classified into 5 basic categories. Number 1, bacteria. Second one, fungi. Third, algae. Fourth one, protozoa. Any guess for the fifth one? Yes, it is the virus. Children, this question may arise in your mind that why did ma'am write all these 4 at one side, that is the bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoa, and why did ma'am write virus at other side? The reason is that bacteria, fungi, algae, and the protozoa, all they are living. And what about the virus? Virus, it is neither living nor non-living. Then what exactly it is? Remember children, viruses, when they are outside the body of host, they are non-living. But once it enters in the body of host, it becomes living. Is it clear? So we can say that virus outside the body of host, it acts as a non-living material, and virus inside the body of host, it acts as a living organism. So that's why I wrote all these 4 examples at one side as they are living, and virus, neither it is living nor non-living, hence I wrote it slightly apart. In detail about the virus, we will learn when we will learn about the virus further in this topic. Now let's move towards the next point. Many times when we are reading the book, we may read the term bacteria and the bacterium. So at that time, don't get confused. What is bacteria and what is bacterium? What is algae? What is alga? What is fungi? What is fungus? What is protozoa? And what is protozoan? Don't confuse when you're reading this term. It is nothing but only the difference of singular and the plural. For example, if we can say bacteria is the plural, bacterium is singular. Algae is plural, alga is singular. Fungi is plural, fungus is singular. Protozoa is plural and the protozoan is singular. And viruses is a plural, virus is a singular. So it is just merely the difference of singular and plural, nothing else. So don't get confused when you're reading the term bacterium, alga, fungus in the book, and when you're reading the term bacteria, algae, fungi in the books. It is merely the difference of singular and plural. Now let's move towards our next point. Now we are learning in detail about the bacteria. Which points are we going to cover here? Let's see. Here we're going to learn about the size of a typical bacterial cell. What exactly is the size range? We're also going to learn about the classification of bacteria. What are the different classes of a bacteria? We're going to learn about the structure of a typical bacterial cell. We're also going to learn about the nutrition and the reproduction of bacteria. Let's learn one by one in detail. If we're talking about the size of a bacteria, whenever we're talking about the size, always remember to measure the size, we do need a specific unit. For example, if we want to measure a piece of cloth, we need a specific unit, that is a meter. If we want to measure the distance, we need a specific unit, that is a kilometer. In the same way, if we want to measure the length of a typical bacterial cell, they are tiny, they are very small, which are not visible to our naked eyes. So here also we need a unit, and the unit for the measurement of a bacterial cell is micrometer. So what is the size range of a typical bacterial cell? It is nothing but 0.2 to 100 micrometer. It is a size range of a typical bacterial cell. If we want to know about the correlation between the micrometer and the meter, have a look over this table. Here the different units are present. So if we want to show the correlation between a micrometer and the meter, then remember 1 micrometer is equal to 10⁻⁻⁶ meters. It is correlation between the micrometer and the meter. Always remember 1 micrometer is equal to the 10⁻⁻⁶ meters. And what is the approximate size range of a typical bacterial cell? It ranges from 0.2 to 100 micrometer. It's about the size of bacterial cell. Now let's move towards the next point. That is the classification of bacteria. Children, whenever we heard the word classification, the first thing which comes to our mind, what is the criteria? On which criteria are we going to classify? So here also, based on the different criteria, the bacteria are put into the different categories. The bacteria are put into the different categories based on the different criteria. What are those criteria? Number one, based on shape, bacteria are classified into different categories. Based on the mode of nutrition, which do they possess, bacteria classified into different categories. Based on the mode of respiration, the bacteria classified into different categories. Let's learn one by one in detail. First one, based on the shape of bacteria, bacteria broadly classified into 4 different categories. The bacteria whose shape is spherical, those bacteria are called as coccus. And here also don't get confused in the word coccus and the cocci. Coccus is a singular and the cocci is the plural. So the bacteria who are rod-shaped, those bacteria are called as bacillus. Bacillus is a singular and bacilli is plural. The bacteria which are comma-shaped, they are called as Vibrium. Vibrium is singular and Vibrio is plural. The bacteria which are spiral, they are called as Spirillum. Spirillum is a singular and the Spirilla is plural. So here also don't get confused in the words coccus, cocci, bacillus, bacilli, Vibrium, Vibrio, Spirillum, Spirilla. It is also merely the difference of singular and the plural. So remember, based on the shape of bacteria, bacteria is broadly classified into 4 major categories. Number one is coccus, second one is bacillus, third one is Vibrium, fourth one is Spirillum. Is it clear? So based on the shape, bacteria are categorized into the 4 major classes. Now let's look over the second category. Here, can you guess which type of bacteria are they? Based on the shape, yes, they are bacillus, spirillum, coccus, and Vibrio. So based on the shape of the bacteria, they are broadly classified into the 4 major categories: bacillus, spirillum, coccus, and last one is Vibrio. Now let's move towards our next point. That is the types of bacteria based on the mode of nutrition. Based on the mode of nutrition, which mode of nutrition they do possess, bacteria belongs to 2 major categories. Number one is autotrophic bacteria. Already in our previous class, that is class 6 and class 7, we have learned what is the meaning of the term autotroph. Means they are preparing their own food by themselves. So here also the autotrophic bacteria, they can produce their own food by themselves. So here also the autotrophic bacteria is of the 2 types. Number one is photoautotrophs and second one is chemoautotrophs. Remember, photoautotrophs, they prepare their own food by themselves by using the light energy, and hence they are called as photoautotrophs. And if we're talking about the chemoautotrophs, then they're preparing their own food by themselves by using the inorganic compounds. Hence, they are called as chemoautotrophs. Now, let's learn about the second class, that is the heterotrophic bacteria. So, these class of bacteria, they are unable to prepare their own food by themselves, and thus they depend on some other organisms for their food to survive. So here also, some of the bacteria which derive the nutrition from the host by causing harm to the body of host, they are called as parasites. And if we're talking about the saprotrophs, so saprotrophs also belongs to the category of heterotrophic bacteria, and these saprotrophs, they derive the nutrition from dead and decaying organic matter. So here heterotrophic bacteria is again of the 2 types. Number one is parasitic bacteria and second one is the saprotrophic bacteria. And Autotrophic bacteria is of the two types. Number one is photoautotrophic and second one is the chemoautotrophic. It's about the classification based on